Welcome to Soul Ascension Insights. My name is Dave Roberts, and I'm your host. I believe our government is not focused on what's in the best interest of its people. You may feel the same. In the next few episodes, I'll be trying to dig into the numerous factors that have negatively influenced our government's actions, much of it in response to the UFO and extraterrestrial issue. We have a lot to cover. So let's get started with episode number 15, titled, Our Secret Government, Part 1. It's hard to know where to start when trying to pinpoint where our government went wrong, but stick with me as I try to review this in a loose chronological order. Operation Paperclip was a secret United States intelligence program in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were taken from former Nazi Germany and illegally smuggled into the USA. They were placed in high positions in the U.S. government and Defense Department companies after the end of World War II in 1945. Most were former members and leaders of the Nazi Party. Our government feared that these highly skilled Nazis would fall into the hands of the Soviets. So as the war wound down, they selected who they wanted and quietly shipped them to a secret base in Virginia, now called Fort Hunt Park. There was a very good YouTube documentary on this titled Camp Confidential, P.O. Box 1142, where the Park Service interviewed Jewish soldiers who worked at this base. The first inklings of the Cold War between the Russians and the U.S. started at the end of World War II, and the German technology was much more advanced than anything the U.S. or Soviets had developed. The Nazis were the first to develop the jet engine and rocket technologies, so I can understand wanting to keep these scientists from working for the Russians. But in my opinion, our government went too far when they placed high-ranking Nazis in prominent positions in our government and industry, which I believe planted a fascist, totalitarian seed into the far reaches of our representative democracy that resonates to this day. We then had the Roswell UFO crashes in June of 1947. UFO sightings increased after atomic bombs were dropped over 2 Japanese cities, which effectively ended World War II. The Roswell Army Air Force Base in New Mexico was home to the 509th Bomber Squadron, the only air wing in the world equipped with atomic weapons, and it attracted the attention of ET visitors. As one British intelligence officer stated, quote, "When we started detonating those atomic weapons and later hydrogen bombs, it was like we kicked over a hornet's nest. We now had the ability to destroy the entire planet, and the adults in the neighborhood were concerned," end quote. I'll now quote from an FBI memorandum dated March 22, 1950. Quote, "An investigator for the Air Force stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. They were described as being circular in shape with raised centers approximately 50 feet in diameter. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall, dressed in a metallic cloth of a very fine texture. Each body was bandaged in a manner similar to the blackout suits used by speed flyers and test pilots. According to the informant, the saucers were found in New Mexico due to the fact that the government has a very high-powered scalar wave radar in that area, and it is believed that the radar interferes with the controlling mechanism of the saucers," end quote. This new scalar radar system, which the U.S. military installed throughout the U.S. and overseas, caused the crash of many ET craft. In the book Unacknowledged, there's a story about Army Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso, who took command of the 552nd Missile Battalion in the White Sands area of New Mexico in 1957. One day, he drove with an MP as they patrolled the boundary of this large missile range. It was high summer, and extremely hot in their car, and the MP said there was a cave they could stop at to cool off. The colonel was about 20 feet inside the cave resting when he noticed a tall being in a head-to-toe silver suit and boots, wearing a helmet with a large, bright stone in the center, standing in the cave entrance. The colonel drew his sidearm, pointed it at the cave entrance, and shouted, "Friend or foe?" The being's telepathic response was, "Neither." The being asked the colonel to shut down his radar for 15 minutes. Corso was thinking, how does this thing know I'm the only person that can give the command to shut the radars down? Corso told the being, "Why should I? What's in it for me?" The being again answered telepathically, "A new world, if you can take it." The being walked away from the cave entrance, and Corso walked to the car and ordered the radar turned off. A few moments later, the colonel and MP saw a large, shining silver, teardrop-shaped craft rise off the desert floor and shoot straight up at an incredible speed and disappear into the blue desert sky. Army Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso had a long, distinguished military career. He was part of Eisenhower's command staff during World War II and was appointed the U.S. Administrator of Italy following the end of the war. He also served on General MacArthur's staff in Korea, and in 1961 he was assigned to the Pentagon and became Chief of Foreign Technologies Desk in Army Research and Development, working under Lieutenant General Arthur Trudeau. Corso's job was to take the technologies recovered from ET craft that crashed at Roswell, New Mexico, and give the technology to certain Defense Department companies to reverse engineer and integrate these new technologies. So at the same time our government was denying the existence of extraterrestrial craft, Colonel Corso was giving the recovered technologies such as fiber optics, night vision, lasers, Kevlar, particle beam, and integrated circuits to defense corporations. The colonel disapproved of the secrecy surrounding the UFO issue, but was a good soldier who carried out orders to the best of his abilities. But before he died in 1998, he left us all a gift by writing the book, The Day After Roswell, which is his account of his Army career and his involvement with reverse-engineered alien technology and what he witnessed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base the day after the Roswell crashes. This is a must-have book, and I'm thankful to Colonel Corso for his service to our country and exposing the truth to the American people. The U.S. and the world have benefited from these recovered reverse-engineered technologies, but our secret government is keeping the important stuff for themselves. They also recovered advanced healing technologies, but there is no money to be made in curing disease. The money is in treating disease. And they won't reveal the energy generation devices that power these alien craft, because that technology would eliminate the multi-trillion-dollar fossil fuel industry, robbing our secret government of its most important funding source. I'll talk more about these withheld technologies in the next 2 episodes. Linda Moulton Howe is a famous journalist who has uncovered a lot of what our secret government has been hiding. Check out an ancient alien show titled Top Secret Document for Magic Eyes Only, Season 12, Episode 9 on YouTube. An unknown insider sent Linda an unmarked package from a remote post office. The package contained a roll of 35mm film. She had the film developed and discovered it was photos of the pages of a manual titled, quote, Top Secret Magic Eyes Only, Psalm 1.01, Extraterrestrial Entities and Technology Recovery and Disposal, end quote, which is a detailed manual on how to handle a UFO crash retrieval event. Check it out. It's a very interesting document. What I propose here is that it was our shadow government and their corporate partners' response to those UFO crash retrieval events and the advanced technology they recovered that started a deadly pattern of secrecy and compartmentalization that lasts to this day. President Dwight D. Eisenhower was the supreme Allied commander during World War II and our 34th president from 1953 to 1961. Eisenhower took office in 1953 and was thoroughly briefed on the Roswell incident. Eisenhower enlisted his friend Nelson Rockefeller to deal with this new national security issue of UFOs. Rockefeller decided that a new agency was needed that would be solely dedicated to UFO and alien encounters while overseeing the incredible technologies that were being acquired through reverse engineering of these interstellar craft. Majestic 12 was launched a year later as an independent agency operating from a black budget with no government oversight. By the end of the Eisenhower presidency, Majestic 12 and its corporate partners' UFO ET projects were becoming increasingly compartmented away from any legal, constitutional, chain of command oversight and control, and it was reported that the president was furious. This was a former five-star general who had seen ET spacecraft and bodies for himself, yet suddenly he was now being kept out of the loop. President Eisenhower soon realized he had inadvertently created a secret, uncontrolled power structure outside of the government's checks and balances system, which the President, Congress, and the Senate had no control over. This shadow government considered presidents, congressmen, senators, and all other appointees as temporary employees who would no longer be briefed on any aspect of Majestic 12 or their corporate partners' operations. As Eisenhower prepared to leave office, he said this in January of 1961, quote, "In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic process. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals so that security and liberty may prosper together," end quote. The military-industrial complex has dictated the direction of our country since the 1960s. Endless wars, deception, illicit endeavors, secrecy, intimidation, corporate capture and assassination are the hallmarks of this unregulated secret government. And as advanced alien technologies have been developed for their use only, they have now spread into space. Daniel Inouye was a war hero, Medal of Honor recipient, and influential senator from Hawaii from 1963 to 2012. During a televised Senate Select Committee meeting in 1989, Inouye referred to the secret government, saying, quote, "There exists a shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, and its own funding mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself," end quote. One last quote before we end this episode. Ben Rich was the director of Lockheed Skunkworks division from 1975 to 1991. Known as the father of stealth, he helped develop and build many innovative aircraft, including the F-11-7 stealth fighter and the B-2 bomber. Before his death in 1995, he stated, quote, "We have things flying in the Nevada desert that are 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there and done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. We now have the ability to send E.T. home," end quote. Well, for those young people out there, the last sentence refers to the 1982 Steven Spielberg movie, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Soul Ascension Insights. I hope you'll join me for the next episode, where we'll pick up where we left off in trying to get a handle on where our government lost its focus on serving the people. One important thing to remind you: do not consent to fear. This story will get bleaker as we go on, but remain positive. There is good news at the end of this series. As always, I'll leave a book and media list below for those who wish to explore this topic further. Thanks again, and I'll be back with more episodes.